if I hit it at all, and if I didn't hit it, it's a very important point. There's a very strange thing going on over here. And there seems to be like some tension over here and just how to understand the mitzvahs of the Daled Ma'aseh Korbanos. For example, the Ramban suggests, and the truth is I could have imagined suggesting such a thing, that the Ma'aseh Korbanos should be one mitzvah, to be Machtiv Korbanos. And that the Ramban says in Shurish Yud Beis, V'akorov Elai Yoseh Shenimna Kol Ma'aseh Korbanos Achas Ein Hefresh L'Kohen Bein Shiaseh Chatos V'Oshem O'Olu V'Shlomim V'Nistav Kol Zera Aaron V'Avoidosam Mitzaseh Achas Shenemo V'Avartem Avoidas Maton Etenis Kunaschem Yiltzaloim Kavdu B'chol Avoidas HaKohuna Ki Hi Avoida Umatona Avoidali Umatona Lochem. So this I understand. So comes the Rambam and says, L'cheira, the answer to the Ramban's kasha is what he says, which I mentioned to you in Kuf Yud Zayin. I say Kuf Yud Zayin. V'al yachshav choshev she'elu arba minim min ha'elchen. He's talking about where the elchen are four mitzvah, not yeh beineim shituf yichayev shin mitzvah achas aval hein arba mitzvahs. Yesh l'chol achas mehen din zulas din or acheres. So since they have different dinim, they're therefore the different mitzvahs. The omim yecholim shem erech outside shitav Hashem, but just the way we call it, it's called elchen, but it's not really elchen. And he says, "V'ein roi sheyimnu minei ha'elchen kula mitzvah achas, kmo shelo yimnu minei hakorbanos kula mitzvah achas, v'zeh mavur im histakus." So he says, how do I know that elchen is four mitzvahs? Because I count the ma'aseh of each different korban also as separate mitzvahs. And how do I know that? Because the Torah has, I assume, separate dinim by chatos and by oilo and by shlo and by oshim and zevach hashlomim. Okay. The problem is that the tension comes now, and offhand it's shnei ksuv mamachish and zeh. Because what you're finding over here is the Rambam is accepting the approach to mitzvahs of his predecessors with a little tweaking. And I find the Sadi going, and maybe in others, that if you find a separate parasha with separate dinim, that itself makes separate mitzvahs. And that the Rambam himself formulated in Mitzvah Seit Tzadihei and Aforos L'Dorim, he says, why is Aforos L'Dorim a mitzvah? Just, if you want it, it happens. There's no real mitzvah. So he says, since the Torah was matriach to write psukim and misasek b'biur dinim, so it made me know it's a mitzvah. So the Rambam is applying this principle, the principle of Tzadihei, and he says, you know what? This is not only a principle to make mitzvahs, but this is also a principle to mechalek mitzvahs, to make them into multiple mitzvahs. Okay? And that's what he uses by the Ma'aseh Korbanos, and he makes four mitzvahs, and that he uses also by Elchim. Okay? So then, if you look back in retrospect, the Rambam has opened and got himself into what you would call a quagmire. Because the Rambam in Shur Shvi'i has set up a rule that the different dinim in Chatoyos, that for a Nosi has a Soyer, and for a Kohen Gadol has a Par Kohen Gadol, and a Hedid has a Sira or a Kispa, okay? That's only different behaviors. They're different dinim, and one's pinimius and one's chitzenius, and all different dinim. No, it's only what the Rambam calls in Arabic fikr, which the probably Mark Lerman is correct. I point this out. The different oifanim to Makayim the same mitzvah. So even though different dinim, it's all one mitzvah. See, you have an amazing thing going on over here. And you don't know how to deal with it. You know, he doesn't talk about Neshurashim, and he sets up a principle, not only Parshios are a reason to count something in Minyan Mitzvahs, as he points out in the Mitzvah Se'aporos Nedorim, but he also is ready to Machadesh that different dinim, Parshas with different dinim, are different mitzvahs. And he does the same thing as a corollary, a second argument why the mitzvah of what's called Chatas Kavua and Osham Badai and Osham Toli and Korban Olav, why are they separate mitzvahs? Ki Kova boy, as Kapak says, a Somboy, as Ibn Tibbet says, Hakosu, and they have separate parshas. But so therefore what? They have separate parshas. So why do you say it's fikr of Korbanos and Mechapa? In other words, where do you draw the line? He has two rules which says there. One rule says that you don't look at the parshas themselves. You look at the broad archetype of what this basically is. It basically is the mitzvah of Eilchim. It would have been, but since then he says, but it's separate dinim. No, we don't look at the mitzvah of Eilchim. On the other hand, when it comes to the mitzvah of Chatas Kavua, he says all the different examples in the Torah, even though the different dinim, we don't look at them as disparate mitzvahs, as Rav Sadi Goin actually does in Perek Chavav of his the Sefer Mitzvah just came out, but you look at it as all one mitzvah. So what's the scoop? This question I felt I had to ask. I didn't ask it last week, okay? So he has a line, and I just want to read it to you, and we'll see. He says in Shiur Shvi'i, he says the following. He says like this. Avalatzivri b'korban hu mitzvah say. Ve'yois ze mevi oisei hakorban ba'atzmoi se'ira. Ve'yois ze mevi oisei hakorban ba'atzmoi se'ira. This one brings a se'ira. Ve'ze yoviu soyer for nosi. Hu b'tnai oisei hakorban. Ve'en kol tnai mitnai ha-mitzvah yimna mitzvah. Okay? That is the party line in Shiur Shvi'i. I'm fikr that it's different possible ways to make the same mitzvah. So the Ramban's basically say that the four types of Maisa Korbanos, the Maisa Chatos and the Maisa Osham and the Maisa Oilo and the Maisa Zevach HaShlomim, let them be fikr of the mitzvah of Maisa Korbanos in general. See, he says like this. Ve'heven ze me'oid ki atos boi ne'elam lo yagish oisei ki im novoin. He says, basically, on one hand, he says you need a certain sense of intelligence in order to decide which way to go. But on the other hand, he's leaving it at his own discretion and his own caprice. And what he's basically saying is an amazing thing. Novoin, that's what he says also in Kuf Yud Zayin, that he talks about this, excuse me just 1 second. He does the same thing, Kuf Yud Zayin, at the end. Yeah, he says, this in Kapach, ve'en yoylim sugi aloch and kula mitzvah achas, kmo she'en kol sugi ha-korbonos nin mitzvah achas, v'zeh boro kishenisboinein. Okay? The same type of thing. So it's, you see, he doesn't give us the kos mashlishi. It's basically the principle of fika and the principle that separate parshas with separate dinim, and this is how basically, this is the say the Ram uses this principle, a separate parsha, separate dinim, to have what you would have said a priori could not, in your wildest imagination, be a mitzvah, the mitzvah of Tumas Mes, the mitzvah of Tumas Shichva Zera, the mitzvah of Tumas Sheretz, the mitzvah of Tumas Nevela, the mitzvah of Tumas Eichel, the mitzvah of Tumas Zav, Zavo, Yoledes, Nida, because it's separate parshas and separate dinim. So what's the scoop? Okay? And he says, Kishin is Bainain and Novain, okay. So I'll tell you what I think, but it's an amazing thing because they really what's happening is, on one hand, he's accepting the principle of his predecessors, the principle that parshas, okay, the principle that separate parshas with separate dinim make separate mitzvahs, which Rav Sadi Goin takes to its logical conclusion. He has a mitzvah of Pakoi Moshiach, Soya Nosi, another mitzvah of Chatas Koyin Hedyet, Chatas of Amoritz, Chatas of Hedyet, and each separate parsha is a separate mitzvah. So comes the Ram and says, no, I accept the principle, but I apply to that something called fikr. And if it's just another way to mekayim the mitzvah, I don't count the separate parshas as separate mitzvahs, but I count them as one mitzvah. Okay. So I think what he's saying and why he leaves this bainanus, he asks himself the following question. Is each one, you have to ask yourself a logical question. You have be'emes, shnei ksub machishim zeh. You have in one hand the principle of separate parshas with separate dinim. And you have in one hand the principle of fikah, that different options, different ways to mekayim the same mitzvah. But the question is, you have to start off and ask yourself, is it all the same mitzvah? And the Rambam, his main thrust in Minyan HaMitzvos is Minyan HaMitzvos on nikva by Inyonei HaTorah. And the Rambam is going out of his way that the fact, when the Torah calls each one of them Erchin, it's not the Torah is saying that they're one Inyan, but it's only Shitaf Hashem. So since they're not one Inyan, and you have separate parshas, you make separate mitzvahs. And how the Rambam, see, it's not clear to me that the Rambam is going to have, or we're going to find a general rule how he does this. He says, Bezboinus, you'll understand whether these separate dinim are indicative that it's a separate Inyan Torah, or these separate dinim are anomalies and just expression of the same mitzvah and the same Inyan Torah. Okay? We may, as time goes on, spruce this up a little bit, but I think the most important thing is this insight that there's a collision between these two principles. The principle of fikah, which he has written in the Shroshim, which, see, the Shroshim are the new, what he has his revolution against the Kadmonim. What he accepts in the Kadmonim, he doesn't talk about. And he feels it's enough just to mention it as an aside in Mitzvah Sadihei and Mitzvah Kuf Yud Zayin. That's the principle of different parshas. And he mentions it also as an aside in Shurish Yud Dalet, where he has one line in Shirish Yudalit, which he's meramis to this. Because he doesn't have to make a big deal about it, because using the principle of the Kadmoinim. And that's on Kapach on page Nun Beis, at the end of a paragraph, Vayodata, V'kach kova akosav v'chol min mehem, why is Osham Vadai, Osham Toli, Chatas Kovua, and Urav Yored, 4 separate mitzvahs, V'kach kova akosav v'chol min mehem, Parsha b'fnei atzmu. But again, when do you apply it and how do you apply it? You need to be a Novain, and I assume the Novain is just to understand whether it's really one Inyan or not one Inyan. So, if you're really honest with yourself, do you gain anything from this? It's not clear, because if the major principle is in Yonei HaTeira, so he just gives you another way to tweak and make what might look like separate mitzvahs, even because it's one Inyan, and explain to yourself why it's one mitzvah. So I'm not sure what is really the keveya over here, because it's an Inyan and you use this to explain it, or this fikr is an actual modus operandi to understand that it's one mitzvah. So I'm a little bit confused. Okay? But that I thought, it occurred to me, and he kept on talking about the novel, because it's not very clear. But on the other hand, the less clarity the Ram says, the more intelligent you have to be, know how to apply it properly. That's what I see. Okay, now we're ready to move on. Now, we have another amazing thing going on. Because here, we're going to find the Rambam attacks Rav Sadigain, or that school of thought, and if you would have been asked, or I would have been asked, I would have sided Rav Sadia, and we'll have to understand how the Rambam actually pulls this together. And this is going to be the next assignment that we're going to try to understand over here. So let's understand, we have a mitzvah called Samaches. Before we do something, okay, just understand the Samaches. Okay, just let's see what happened over here. He had after Nuntes, okay, he had Samach Aleph and Samach Beis, which is a expression again of Shorish Yud Beis, that those mitzvahs that apply to all korbanos are separate mitzvahs, and that he has in Mechusas Man, and he has Tomim and Malicha, correct? Then he goes, now that was Samach Aleph, Samach Beis. Samach Gimel then he goes to the 4 types of Maisa korbanos, which he has also set up in Shorish Yud Beis, which is the Maisa Oila, Samach Gimel, Samach Dalid, the Maisa Chatos, Samach Hey, Maisa Osham, and Samach Vov, Maisa Shlomim, Maisa Zevach HaShlomim. And then he says also, Samach Zayin, Menachis. Okay? Now, if you go back to Shorish Yud Dalid, you remember that you have in these korbanos shemachape, you want to call them an not. Remember we discussed this last week, the strange words of chudud, which Rapsadi go into some types of rules or gedolim. We don't know exactly what it is, okay? But the Rambam clearly says in Shorish Yud Dalid that there's a mitzvah of chatos, a mitzvah of osham toli, a mitzvah of osham vadai, and a mitzvah of olav yored. Correct? So what do we basically have over here? From Samach Tes, Ayin Aleph, and Ayin Beis, you basically have Shorish Yud Dalid, correct? He's saying over Shorish Yud Dalid. He said over Shorish Yud Beis in Samach Aleph, Samach Beis, Samach Gimel, Samach Dalid, Samach Hey, Samach Vav, Samach Zayin. Okay. Then in Samach Tes, Ayin Aleph, and Ayin Beis, he says over Yud Dalet. Okay? Then he throws in over here in Samach. Okay? And this is like amazing. It's like, if you know from as a child, you throw the wrench into the gears and the whole thing goes, berserk. This is what he does over here now. He says, Rabbi Isai, I want to tell you something. There's a mitzvah called Parhel and Dover. It comes mamish out of nowhere. Okay? HaMitzvah, HaShmona V'Shishim, He shetzivonu shiakrivu bezdin korban kishetol v'horu shlik halocha v'zeu omra yis'ale v'im kol adas Yisrael yishku v'nelam dovo me'ene akol. Ukva nisboi mishptei mitzvah zu v'atnoim shebo al hashleim mish hoyes v'koim mish v'ch. Very, very nice. Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. And what I'm going to do to ask this question, I'm going to be very unfair. I'm going to take a quote for the Rambam and apply it and ask you how to apply it. And I think what you would tell me is you should come to the conclusion of Kapsati, not like the Rambam. And that's amazing. Okay? So let's now do this. What I want to do is go back to Shiur Zion, okay? And if you call it Shiur Zion, what's the Rambam doing? Fika. He's taking the Korban Oile V'Yored, which Rav Sadi counts as 3 mitzvahs, Ashiras, Dalas, and Dali Dalas. He says, you know what? Each one of them, it's 3 different expressions, the same mitzvah. It's just if you're an Osher, you do it this way. If you're an Oni, you do it that way. And Dali Dalas, you do it that way. Okay. And then let's, as an introductory remark, he does the same thing, Chatas Kavua. He says, Rabbi Isai, the Chatas Nosi, the Parkoi Moshiach, and the Chatas Hedit are all the same expression, Mitzvah Chatas Kavua. And then he says, you know what? Look at the Torah. Now let me just read to you what he does, and then I'll ask you what you would say we should do. Umizeh hamin gam kein, he shigagas mitzvah. V'hu shakosov bo b'sefer vayikra. That's in Perek Dalet. Shemi sheshogag v'ova al mitzvah Shem yakriv korban v'hi mitzvah sei achas. V'hu sheyakriv hashogig chatos. Okay, this is not the mitzvah of the Ma'aseh Krova. This is the Chayvas Gavra who discharges his obligation to bring the korban. And that's the Chinuch points out. In one, the mitzvahs of the Kohanim and the Ma'aseh Krova. In terms of the Chayvas Havor and Kapora, that is on the person of the Chayte. And that's what he's talking about now in Shiur Zion. The Chiyu Havor of Hakrova, of Havor of the Korban Chatas, the Chatas Kavur. Uv'tnai sheyash shkogo, b'dova shechiyavim of kolos, v'dono kolos, v'yeh bo ma'aser, v'yeh mitzvah loisaseh, kmo shebiyanu, b'feirush horiyos, it is pirush and horiyos, and krisis. Okay, the same. Then he says, Achakein, this is the most important thing. Achakein, diktek hakosuv, betoya ze hakorban. The Torah goes to great lengths to explain to you, to graphically explain to you the korbanos that are called this chatas kavua. V'kosav boi ksuvim, v'omer im hoya shogeg me'ama oretz, Yaakov kizbo sira. V'im hoya nosi, Yaakov soye. V'im hoya kohen gadol, Yaakov par. And then he says, and part of it's left out. V'im hoya sashkoga b'avodah zara, Yaakov hashogeg sira. Bein shoya nosi v'chu. So, l'chir, what he's saying is, you have a parsha on the Torah of Chatos, which the Torah has an introductory remark telling you such a thing as a korban, a Chatos kavua, and then the Torah tells you the various fikah, the various oifanim that you mekayim the mitzvah. A similar way that he told us Yud Beis, that the Torah opens up a discussion about the Maisa Oila, has an opening statement and tells you how you makriv the Oila. Correct? So wouldn't you expect that everything that is under this heading should be fikr of the korban chatos and should be one mitzvah? Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe Lemo, daber b'nei Yisrael Lemo, nefesh kisechte b'shkogo mikol mitzvahs Hashem asher lo se'asena v'osa me'achas mehena. This is the opening statement. This is the introductory remark, and this is the overarching principle of this parasha, these parashas. Then it says, "Im aklina Mashiach yechte le'ashmas ha'om v'ikriva chatos ashechoto par." Right, and this is the Parkoi Mashiach. Then right after Parkoi Mashiach, you know what's there? It says, "V'im kol adas Yisrael yishku min elam dover me'enei akol v'yosu achas mikol mitzvahs Hashem asher lo se'asena v'yoshemu." Par helam dover is the second example which the Torah writes here. You see how amazing and how difficult this is going to be? Then, after that, the Torah says, Asher nosi pasach beis yechto v'osa achas mikol mitzvahs Hashem elokov asher lo se'asena b'shkogo v'yoshem. Okay, that's okay. Then, in Chav Zayin, v'im nefesh achas techte b'shkogo me'am ha'oretz v'asreisa achas mitzvah Hashem asher lo se'asena. So this is beautiful. In Shiur Zion, he defines fikah. The parsha has an opening statement, and you don't look at it as 4 different mitzvahs, but it's one mitzvah. Okay? But he does something. He leaves out Par Helen Dover, and then Par Helen Dover has Tchias HaMesim, and is the first one that he mentions that it does not follow this rule. So logically, if you would have asked me, I can imagine 2 rules. Either you say that, like our Sadi going, that there are 4 mitzvahs over here. He starts out the mitzvah of in Chavav. He has the mitzvah of Parham Dovo. Then he has a mitzvah of Parkoi Mashiach. Then a mitzvah of Siyar Nasi. And then a mitzvah of Chatas Hedit. I can imagine that. Or I can imagine the other way. You say you have an overarching statement. It's one inyan from Inyan Torah, and Shalom Yisrael, it's one mitzvah. What has the Rambam wrought over here? What is going on? This, I think, is an amazing problem. You know, this is an amazing problem. You know, it don't make any sense. Okay, so now I'll try Kiyad Hashem HaTov. Okay, but the question, I think, is a question.
Yeah, but there's an oiler also. It's not so simple. But it's not just the.
No. You're not being fair. You're being fair, but you're not being fair. The oiler is in the Pasuk Shalach. Okay. We'll have to see, and we can talk about it. The truth is, you're mechaven to the Seder Mitzvahs, which talks about that. Okay, but you know that's like half-baked answer. You know, he himself says the half-baked answer.
No, but it's Kaveh, the Inyan Torah is different.
Why? Yeah, but you know, so what does that mean? Why is it? What does it mean? Why is it so? How could it be such a thing? He says also, you can't have an oiler. How can you have an oiler? That's what he asked. It's in a Sefer called Seder Mitzvahs. But he himself says that answer is insufficient. He says it. Okay. So I want to tell you the following. Okay? You can say, you know, whatever it is. Maybe we'll incorporate this as part of it, but it's only part of one piece in the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle, I think. And then I tell you, it's a double portion. if you're going to organize the mitzvah of the Ma'aseh Chatos, correct? Aren't you going to say that Parahel and Dovo is the mitzvah of Ma'aseh Chatos? Certainly. So in Chatos Kavur, you can say it's different. But say we have to understand why. Now, I will tell you the following. If you look in Shiur Yudalid, the Ram sets up a principle, a very important principle. Because the Ram in Shiur Yudalid he starts with the Chadud here. We'll see like this. Da ki shekol mitzvahs aseh v'loisaseh nechlekes chaluk rishayna. So he says, achelek asher bo perish ho'inish v'atagmul yesh mo'isen ha-mitzvahs asher tzivonu yisrael lisko umehen lachnoik umehen ritzuo umehen shi'er lehem kores v'chulei. And then Misa b'dei Shamayim, mehen shivon Yisrael lahanish es oiv moinoi, loy begufoi, v'chulei, umehen shivon Yisrael shi'ake b'oiv korban al chatosoi, v'yiskape eloi, hari bitzua ha'oinshin, if that's oinshin ha'gdorim alolu, kula mitzvasei. K'fi shenitzavinu la'arag ezer, u'la'hakres ezer, v'liskol ezer la'akev korban al ma shavan olo. So the Rambam says that the Machayev of the Chatos, the Machayev of the Osham Vadai, the Osham Tolui, and the Korban V'er V'yored is a loisase in Minyan HaMitzvos. When I say, if there would have been for an assay, you have to have a Ma'aseh Avera because the Chetzer of this mitzvah is an oinesh or kapor, whatever you want to call the chadud over here. Chaboisai, what's happening in Parahel and Dovo is chol l'gambre. There's no Ma'aseh Avera. It's a tos in hira. Who does the Ma'aseh Avera? Klal Yisrael. Who brings the korban bezdin? Look at the Rambam again. He shenitzesivinu shakrivu bezdin korban kshetol v'hiru shaloi kalocha v'zer omo yisale v'im kol adas yisrael yishku v'nelam dov v'meini akol. True, you need the Ma'aseh Avera of the call, but that's only a t'nai. Or that the Machayev is not the Ma'aseh Avera. The Machayev is the Tos and Eira. If the Machayev is Tos and Eira, logically, in a system which is set up that the mitzvah in Torah is defined as Chadud and Oynish, a rule for Ma'aseh Avera, this cannot fit in. In Memela, this has to be a separate mitzvah. I'll show you an amazing thing. If you open up Rav Sadigan in Perek Chavov, he starts like this. HaPerek ko'esum v'shisha, shal ma'aseh hashkoga, v'hein chamisha o esrei mitzvahs, ma shenoisa, kol kahal shechoto. B'dovo, b'dvar mitzvahs lo yisaseh, b'shkogo, alehem. He's learning the mitzvah is on the kahal. Lahakriv pa lachatos shenisraf b'shleimusay. Commotion is boy b'parsha. V'im kol adas Yisrael yishku v'nelam dovo v'goyma ad sefer. V'chein im hoya kohen gadol v'hu sheshoga b'kach o lahakriv pa lachatos. אבל אם הויה חויטי בשקוגה הויה מלך אולו להקריב עתוד לחטוס שניסוף חלבו ובלבד. V'im hoyachite echod min hamoin, all of the hakil v'chatas, and all the separate mitzvahs. But this is it. The Rambam, because he's Yotze as a knight in shining armor, or that the chefse for mitzvah v'chatas kavua is a kapora and a ma'isa aveira. If the mechayiv is not the ma'isa aveira, that's a different mitzvah b'chal. And the Rambam Adarabba puts parel dovo before to tell you this is a different thing. There's a new class called parel dovo, which is not in a ma'isa aveira, and it's not a sug oynish, it's not a sug of chadud. There's no mention of it in Shirish Yudalad. And this is what he's done over here. And this, I think, is amazing. Okay, we can come to your business, we'll see you later. We'll put everything together, Metz Hashem. But I think this is the overarching answer here. And that's what it said, Sheto Bahira. It's very medukta kind of thing. And in the other case, he talks about the Maisavera. And in Shirish Yudal, he's talking about the Maisavera, the Maisavera, the Maisavera. And here's the Maisavera. Here's not the Maisavera. It's the Toros and Oira and the Michshel that came out from this Toros and Oira. Now, that's why the Rambam goes out of his way in each one of them. In Chatas Kavua, in Oshem Tolui, in Oshem, he talks about the Maisaveris. He lists the Maisaveris Chatas Kavua. He lists the Maisa. He says it's a Hagdolim Vayiduyim, and in Oshem Tolui, it's really the same as in Chatos. And then when it comes to Oshem Vadai, he goes through Gzela and Shivcharufa, Mila, and Shuvasipikodai. And when it comes to Yored, he talks about Tumas Mikdash Kedoshov, and you'll find Shavuos Bitui and Shavuos Eidus, but each one has its peculiar Maisavera, which is Machayev. And here it's not the Machayev and the Maisavera. Now, you'll find this Loshe of the Hurrah of Bezdin B'Tolos. You'll find in the Minyan HaKotzer, in Samches, Lahachriv Bezdin Korban, Im Tov B'Hurrah, Shneim Livin Kol Das Yisrael B'Chulei. In the plot there, mitzvahs, in Urushkovis, Shiakrivu Hasanhedrin Korban Im Tov B'Hurrah B'Hurrah Shelo Kalocha Bi'achas Min HaChamuos. There has to be a topic. It's not stam or tos and a achas min hachamuros. But the mechayiv is not because it's chamuros. That's only shurim in the hira and the michshel. And that the Rambam is cholok b'etz misay dinoi from Sadigoin. If Sadigoin learns, he counts fikah. And he counts as the prime example of the fiqh. He starts the parak with par helam dova. And it's a case of a ma'isavera. And the ma'isavera is machayim par helam dova. And it's machayim a different korban from the ma'isavera from Kohen Gadol. And v'chule v'chule. And that's the Rambam goes out of his way in Shirish Zion and says the chiluf of the different korbanos, it's the same mechayiv of a ma'isavera from a chayve krisis b'mezid and the chayve chatas b'shegeg. It's the same ma'isavera from the Parkoi Moshiach, the Nasi, and the Hamonam. So maybe it's one mitzvah, and even the Siyah Nasi. I mean, the Siyah Avodah we'll see. Now, next, you look is very interesting. it's very interesting, Rambam. You see here, okay. So now, here I would bring in, now I can bring in the Seder HaMitzvos, okay? The Seder HaMitzvos says in his Sefer, in a few lines, he says it very much bothered for a while, why is this two mitzvahs? Okay. And he says there's something strange over here. That you have an oilah with the seer about the zohar. You also bring oilos, Paul and oilos, right? You bring chatos and oilos. And how can that be? It's only really a chatos. So now maybe you go, and since I guess you have to say that you're assuming maybe you should just do the opposite. And you assume that Parahel and Dobo and Syria for the Zohar are all one mitzvah. So Bozeh, believe it, Alzeh, but you don't understand what happened. But once you say this, you can imagine it, since it's not a Chatas and a Mais Avera, you can imagine this this new combination of Chatas and Oilam. See, I would use what you wanted to say only at the end as a sa'ad, but not as the main throughout to try to understand this.
Does this explain why the Rambam changes the order in Mishnah Torah? He sticks it mamish at the end?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I didn't write this now, but I wrote this once. Because really it's a whole different world. And he just uses at the end, he explains other things in the basis of it, but it's at the end of Shkodes. Because he really is something different. See, he really does this in two ways. In Sefer HaMitzvos, he puts it at the beginning to show that it's different. Okay? And in Mishnah Torah, he puts it at the end. But the purpose is to show that it's different. It's an amazing thing. Now, and you have to, you could say the mitzvahs a little bit better, since in Zvachim the Gemara says that the oil ain't a bo alachet, Zvachim davov, l'chen mechapa ve'la achaf it's not bo alachet. So, how is it equivalent to chatos and what's going on, But it's all down to the same thing. And this is what I would say. Now, next step. See, this a priori answers is an answer, but it also creates a new problem. Because there's a hekesh between Par, Hel, and Dovo. And Par Koi Mashiach, that Par Koi Mashiach is only chayiv because of a law, just like Bezdin. So I would say either both Par Koyim Mashiach and Par Hel Dovo should be separate mitzvahs, or they should all be an expression of chatos. And let me show you this. This is another problem. The Rambam in Perek Tezvov of Hilchos Shkogas Halacha Aleph, Shekoyim Mashiach maybe al shir gosoy kisheto'o behoiroas atzmei. V'ose meise b'shkogo b'shirgas hoirosoy levado. V'hi shiyeh chokom chochom mufla. It's a tos and ofro. He basically is the whole Parahel and Dovo. He's murder betos, and he does it. Shenema im akoyin Mashiach yechta la'ashmas om. How Mashiach kitzibo, matzibo shehein bezdin inen chayovim bekorban ad shiyu chachomim ruyin loiro v'yitu b'oro v'yaso isim apiem v'yo levato mixes l'kayim mixes kacha Mashiach b'chol adochim ha'elu. So the Rambam's equated it. So, either this way or that way. Okay. So I'll tell you the following. We said that in Par Helam Tova, or that the Machayiv is the Hira, the toes. The Shigga Sa'om is only Tnai and Chiv. I think that in Par Koyim Mashiach, it's the reverse. It's the reverse. The Hainu, the Machayiv, is the Maisavera. However, there's a Tnai that the Maisavera of Kohen Gadol has to have a Shiggas Hara attached to it. It's not the same at all. And therefore, the Ram could say that it basically is a fikah for chatos, and therefore we can say that in Seir Avodah Zarah, the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Hedjit, and the Kohen Gadol, the Hedjit, and the Nasi are all the same. And therefore we'll see the emes is, the acid test is that the Oshim Toli is really an acid test for Chatas Kavua. Anytime there's a Chatas Kavua, there's an Oshim Toli. There's a Oshim Toli for I think there's an Oshim Toli for Kohen Mashiach and the others. But in Par Helam Dover, there's nothing. This, I'll just read you the Lashon in Perek Tezvov, Kvar Bi'anu, Tezvov Aloch Aleph, he says like this, Kvar Bi'anu, Shekol Shkogo Shehedit Mevi Oleh Chatos HaKavua, Kizbo Eisira, Im Shogag Bo Anosi Mevi Soyer, V'im Shogag Bo Kohen Mashiach Mevi Par. So it means it's the Maisavera is the Machayiv. It's just different types of korbanos which they bring, and that the Ram stresses in Shiur Shvi that this incommittent dinim is not enough to machalik anything. It's just fikah. Then he just says in aside, maybe it's only tonight. It's an amazing thing. Now, I just want to add something. I'm not sure if it's an addition. I'm not sure if it's another teretz, and I'm not sure if it's anything, okay? But it may be something. The Rambam in Minyan HaKotzer has a very strange word. In Minyan HaKotzer Samach Tes, he says the mitzvah is lahakriv hayochid korban chatos im shogeg b'mitzvah loisaseh shechayovim oleh hakoros shenema nefesh kisechta b'shkogo. He says it's yochid. Yochid. So, is there some meaning of yochid? Because the Rambam does another thing, which is very, I don't know if it's odd, but just an observation. The Rambam Akdoma Zvochim has basically two approaches to organize korbanos. In one way, his first approach is to organize korbanos in terms of the different types of korbanos, the chatos, the oilo, the osham, and the zevach hashlamim. Then he says, Rabbi Isai, there's a whole different way to organize korbanos. You can organize it in terms of korban yochid, korban tzibur, korban yochid me'en korban tzibur, and korban tzibur me'en korban yochid. Okay? And I think possibly, because this, and he seems to say you do it this way, you do it that way, okay? And it seems to me this is very important to him. So much so, I think the Rambam is going out of his way, if you recall, in Samach Vav, and he says that these Maisa Korbanos, the Maisa Chatos, and the Maisa Oila, and the Maisa Shlomim are all noyeg, bein b'yochid, bein b'tzibur. Parhel and Dovo, he goes out of his way, and just read the way he does it. I'll just read. He goes like this. V'suga korbanos arbo'o, v'heima oilo, v'chatos, v'oshev, v'shlomim, v'demeim. V'ein b'toyseinu shum korban, lo yochid, lo korban tzibur, zulas echel me'avo sugim elu, oikulo. V'chuli, now I'm skipping. V'achrei kein oime, ki ha-korbanos nechlokim b'oifen acher, li'avo sugim. Another way. Korban tzibur, v'korban yochid, v'korban tzibur kein korban yochid, v'korban yochid kein korban tzibur. Okay, then he says like this. Vasuga sheni, he says like this, excuse me, 1 second. And he says like this. Then he says, then he says, right. Hine Vasuga sheni hu korban yochid nechlak l'chamisha chalokin. Achelik orisha she's chayv yochid korban al ma'aseh she'osa or al dibur she'dibur. It's a ma'aseh or it's a dibur. Shekoil gam par koyin Moshiach. Par koyin Moshiach. And he has par koyin hedjit. I put the power of Hedjit and the Nasi there. However, when it comes to power of Dovo, that's in Asuga Shlishi, who korban tzibur ke'ein korban yochid. Who could go into Shogul with Bezdin, Hagodo, Veitiru Dovo, Shechayov Mazdona Kores, Vashiros and Chatos, Kovur. V'shogol on Be'roson, V'ovu, Kmoshe, Bi'alnu B'hoyes, Hari Elu Chayov and Chatos. So the question is, I'm not sure what's going on over here. Is the answer to Pa Koyin Moshiach that the Machayiv is the Ma'aseh Aveiro and Horor is just a T'nai? Or that since Chatas Kavur in Chefse is a Korban Yochid, it's a different Chefse Shal Korban as a korban tzibur. You see, and I'm going to say one more sentence, and I'll leave it at that. I could have imagined, but I don't know, and I guess time will tell what the truth is. I could have imagined that if it's cholok l'gamre, and it's a different category, then dinim shoinim could be keveya. So I can imagine if you would have told me that a korban tzibur be'ein korban yoch is not derech Shabbos, is a different category, so then maybe that's enough to be keveya as a separate. I'm not excited about that. I like the idea that it's the mechayiv is not the ma'aseh aveira, but I ask myself, why does the Ram stress Yochid? Now, also you find over here another case of fikr. Because the Rambam counts in L'cheira, wouldn't you say that Parhel and Dovo has two parts to it? It's the par on HaMitzvos of Chayvei Krisis, and it's also the korban on Avodah Zorah, which the tzibur brings when the bezin was heard on Avodah Zorah and Pasha Shlach. Correct? And the Rambam only counts it as one mitzvah, and that he clearly says. he clearly says in Perek Yud Beis, v'Shkogas Halacha Aleph, Kol Davar Shechrob Meshkilas Achatos, Kavur Im Shogu Bezne Beiro Behiru Latiro B'Shogu On B'Roson V'Hem Seichel Roson V'Akach Noidel Bezne Shetor V'Bezne Chayov Lo B'Korbacha Uma Hu HaKorban Shemeviim Ashkuzu Im Avodah Zarah Shogu V'Hem V'Im Par Lo'ila V'Soyel Achatos Mikol Shevet V'Shevet V'Korban Zeh Hu HaOmo V'Pasha Shalach L'Cho Shenever v'hoyi meinei o eda necessar l'shkogu pi hashmu lamdu shebeshigas avodah zarah hu medaber ve'im b'shar krizes shayov meshigas achatos kovu shogu v'hoyu maybe kol shev v'shevet par chatos v'zeh omo b'parshas vayikra. Okay, and here Rav Sadi going again just the opposite, because besides the Pacham Dova, which he counted already, he says, Achre kein hoitzi hakosa min aklal arba min HaMitzvos shehein yichudiyos machmas keved ovon. They're very special because they're very difficult and very heavy sins. V'oitzem achumu shebehen vehein avodas ha'olilim shekosa shkogol zu bi'echel miyonero. Harishim shogazu nas al yidei yochid olav l'hakim l'chatus eis nekeva dafka. כפי שאומר, ואם נפש אחס תחת בשקוגו, יכולים לעז. ואם הוא יציבה עליהם להקריב פר לאולו, שישורף כולוי, וכן אותוד לחטוס, שישורף חלבו. So it's the same type of thing. He has fikah, and he counts it twice. And the Ram says, here this fikah, we understand the Rambam that it's basically chayve krisis. The Torah says this chayve krisis brings this and this, that. And V'horaye has all the same dinim, V'horas Bezdin, and it's a b'chiyuv v'hora, and it's just the Maisavera is just a Shiur. No. Okay. Now, we have that. Next, shall we just get started over here? Now, we started with this mitzvah. HaMitzvah hatesha b'shishim, hi shetzivonu sheyakriv kol mi. Now, the kol mi sheshogag b'chet min hachatoim hagdolim hayaduim. So what's the kol mi? The kol mi is the Kohen Mashiach, and the Nasi, and the Kohen, the Nasi, and the Amoritz. Okay. This now, Kol Mishishoga. Okay. And that he's saying because it really is fikah. He's saying it a very. Okay, and that he's saying over Shurish Zion that there are a few different ways for the same mitzvah to miskayim. He's saying it very short. Hachatoim, hagedolim, hayeduim. Very, very careful. They yeduim because it's not all the chayve krisis, because the two of the chayve krisis is a korban of v'yored, tumas mikdash kedoshav, and it's not all the chayve krisis because three of the chayve krisis no korban chatas at all, no korban at all. That's Pesach and Mila and Megadef, because there's no Maisa. But if it's you're doing these Gedolim, are you doing? You bring the Chatas Kavur. And that is the mitzvah of Chatos. The Mitzvah Shem will pick this up and go on a Mitzvah Shem next week.